we're missing a couple of commissioners, so I'll be running the meeting today. Do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, minutes of Monday, December the 7th. Approve those?
I'll move to approve.
All second.
Been moved second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think I'd like to, just a couple things here. Since we're in kind of a different situation, a little housekeeping, maybe call it. We have two interviews scheduled for this afternoon. Do you feel that maybe we should postpone those since we're in a unique situation?
I would think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, so we can direct Donna to contact those people as soon as possible and let them know that we will shoot for next week.
Sounds good.
Shoot at the same time next week.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess a couple of other things is since chairman and vice chairman are gone, we have some checks that we need to get out. How do you want to handle those?
Can I say something?
Yes.
You are able to sign your own bank signature card, but you maybe want to do a notation in the minutes, the reason that you're signing today with the vice chair and chair being gone. So, and that was verified with the auditor.
And is there a problem with that?
No.
Does somebody want to make a motion to authorize me to sign all documents today then?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that I be authorized to sign all documents today. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries 3-0. Okay. Now we'll get back to Connie.
Morning, Connie.
Should have, I think, a couple motions on disposing of vehicles that I had talked about last week. They will be published in the newspaper this week and next week, and there's no newspaper. And then I would like to purchase with the trade-in of those vehicles, if that's okay.
You guys have any questions or? Do you need motion numbers for these motions?
No, I mean, I'll put it in.
Okay. Probably the first motion should be to dispose of the vehicles. So based on recommendation of the county appraiser, approval of the county attorney, that 2007 Chevrolet Colorado is no longer required and can be disposed of by trade-in to Cromartie Ford. Cromartie Chevrolet. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and second to approve the motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next one would be to dispose of the 2021 Chevrolet. Wait a minute.
Yeah, 2005,
Okay, got it backwards.
that was the very first one.
Ford Ranger. Okay. Recommendation of county appraiser, 2005 Ford Ranger to be disposed of can no longer be used with a trade-in of Cromartie Ford for amount of $2,500.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next motion is based upon the recommendation of County Appraiser to approve the bid from Cromartie Ford for 2021 Ford Ranger Crew Cab pickup in the amount of $27,929 with trade-in value $2,500 for the old Ford Ranger. Total amount of $23,429. Have a motion?
I'll move.
All second.
Been moved and second to approve the purchase of the vehicle. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Based upon the recommendation of County Appraiser, move to approve the bid from Cromartie Chevrolet for 2021 Chevrolet Colorado Extended Cab 4-door, amount of $24,950 and less trade-in value of $4,500, total purchase price of $20,450.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, approved, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yep,
Connie.
okay. Amber, would you like to come up, please?
Morning.
Sure. So I just wanted to kind of update you guys on what's going on in our office, because I haven't really updated anybody on what we're doing and what's going on. So I just jotted down a couple of things. I didn't make a big fancy report or anything. We did finish dispersing that 1.75 million CRF grant. There's just a teeny little bit left for the county's portion, and I just got another invoice from Doug Vanderlinden for some equipment that they need to expand broadband. So I think that everything's going to be completely done, and the final reconciliation of that is due in January. So we've been placing resource requests for the health department and the hospital. We've been working with them and all the departments that are needing supplies. We've had lots of people ask for masks. We've had people ask for hand sanitizer, things that they need. We've been working with the health department on rumor control and public information. I've been working with GIS on corrections of the addresses, the streets, and customer info for compliance with dispatches in the CAD system. Once Tasha got that new system going, we have to make sure that all of our street files and all of our street lines and all the maps match what dispatch has. So her and I have been working on making sure everything's matching up there. Reviewed the Wolf Creek plan. They have a new plan out, and there's some new EAL updates, emergency action levels. I think they have some new ones. Courtney and I made some suggested changes to Wolf Creek's emergency action plan for their dam. Should they have a dam failure, they have a plan, and they needed some help on how to notify the public, and so Courtney and I went in and helped them figure that out. Courtney's been working on radio upgrades, and he's also been working on dispatch's console updates. Chelsea's been turning out IDs. We got a new ID printer from the Homeland Security region, so she's been catching up on IDs. She's making corrections to the Wolf Creek calendar. Did everybody get their Wolf Creek calendar at home?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in that is the little card that we send out, and Chelsea makes all those changes, updates, and corrections in our database. And she's working on that. And her and I have been working on the accounts for the year-end transfers. We continue to have daily web conferences, Zoom meetings with our partners, the state, and FEMA. And that's all I have for that. Any questions?
On your personal protection requests, are you able to fulfill those?
Right now we are, but I am telling people that the state pretty much said they're out of supplies, so we needed to try to buy it online first, and things are becoming a little bit more readily available. Not everything, but most of the things that we need, we can find online. And we do have a pretty good cache out at our storage building.
So we've been able to meet everyone's requests so far.
Sounds good.
And I have one more thing. I have a motion, we've been working on upgrading the EOC, we got new chairs on a grant. And then we found some tables, and they're on state contract pricing. So I really kind of wanted to, get those purchased this year. And we have the money set aside. We've had the money for several years sitting in our capital outlay. And these are really good tables. These are tables that are on wheels, and then they have the plugins inside them, set in them. And then they'll plug into a wall.
What are we gonna do with the old one?
I don't know.
Set them back for sale?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty big and heavy. And
On the recommendation, interim emergency management director, county attorney, waive the purchasing policy as competitive bidding for good cause, said cause being state of Kansas contract, approve the purchase of 16 tables from Merit in the total amount of $12,853.32, and authorize director, interim emergency management director. I think we kind of repeated ourselves there. Directly to purchase.
yes,
We already did. Anyway, to purchase the tables. Have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries 3-0.
awesome, thank you. Any questions you guys have for us, emergency management?
Bob, I wanted to mention one thing. We had citizens saying that they couldn't find our phone numbers in the phone book anymore since we changed phone companies several years ago. And I just wanted to thank Wolf Creek for holding up, mailing out the calendars so that we could get some cards put in with those calendars so that citizens would be able to have all county agency phone numbers readily available to them. So, and I did receive a couple of thank yous, a thank you note, and phone calls thanking us for that. So I just want to say thanks to Wolf Creek for that.
Do you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Angela,
Hey,
come on up.
okay, it's gonna take me a minute.
You know my question.
I know. I know your question.
Your answer?
How are you?
I'm good.
Your answer?
Merry Christmas.
That's my girl. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And I'll just. Those of you that may not know me, my name is Angela Trimble. I'm with Trust Point Insurance here in Burlington. I have your insurance renewal for 2021. And I'm going to go over it in detail, as much as detail as you want. Ask any questions that you may have. So we carry all lines of the insurance except the health insurance. So it's all property and casualty for Coffee County. So if you want to go ahead and open up your proposals, page 2 is just going to go over the table of contents of what we have. The next page lets you know the rating that EMC, the insurance company that you're rated with, that they are an A excellent, and that's a financial backing on EMC's part and how fiscally strong they are. Page 3 is myself and Bobby Gilhouse. that we work on your account solely at Trust Point Insurance. The next page is page 4, and this is the property. So again, this has every single location that Coffee County has insured. If you look down, it will tell you location numbers and then how many buildings at that location. We have the addresses and then the description beside that being more specific of where it's located at. We have a property blanket summary, which blankets all of your buildings together, over 10 million. And then we have business, personal property. If you were to turn your buildings upside down, whatever would fall out. That's a little over 2 million. Your property in the open, which would be signs, fencing, those items. We have 648,000. We have a blanket flood on locations of over 1 million and a blanket earthquake of over 1 million. If you turn the page, each one of the locations that was previously presented in the page before has an aerial view of each one of the properties. Underneath it, it'll give you in more detail about the deductible. And then what we have each building, personal property at, and the value. They're all at replacement cost. So on page 5, you'll see building 1, this courthouse and jail. The limit we have is $7,032,309 at replacement cost. You have your business property of $838,200 at replacement cost. And then at one time, we have looked at just the computer equipment alone, and we have that insured at $380,000 here at the courthouse and the jail. The emergency management DVRS repeater, that was an issue of how we were going to insure that, so they insured that separately. And that's at $493,500. And then property in the open is the tower right outside the southeast corner, the tower at $312,000. So every one of these locations are done the same way. Would you like to go over every one of the locations?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. So if we turn past all of the locations, and of course, if you have any questions and you want to contact in my office, myself and/or Bobby, feel free to do that. If you go right past page 12, there's equipment breakdown insurance. We have that on all of those properties, and it tells you a little bit if something were to break down. We've actually had this happen before with a claim here in the courthouse when electricity hit the nurses' station and it hit the refrigerator with the vaccines. So this is where that coverage came from. So those vaccinations were covered. It just gives you a little bit of detail in regards to that of how that would work. If you turn to page 13, it is the inland marine, basically your equipment, anything that's mobile. So the county has over $6 million of scheduled equipment. And leased and rented equipment, you have up to $300,000. Currently, you will see underneath that it says rental companies on record. This is when maybe Road and Bridge is doing some things and they rent that. You automatically have that coverage. A lot of times when you go to rent that, they want your insurance or they want you to purchase that insurance. All you have to do is contact our office. We'll add that on here for minimal dollars. and you automatically have 300,000 anyway. So it didn't have to be above and beyond that. Mobile property that we have coverage on are GPS systems, the voting terminals, mobile radios, anything that is leaving the property over 100 feet. So we have $357,422 on scheduled property limit on mobile. And then we have added drone coverage, and the property limit on that is $27,708.
Is that just for the drone, or is that also what the drone might cause?
This is drone for the drone, correct, Bobby?
Yes, that's correct. The coverage under the inland marine is just for the drone itself. Because of the high value of the drone that was just acquired, we decided it was going to be best to go ahead and insure that. The actual liability for the drone will actually come under your general liability in your law enforcement just a little bit later.
Okay, thank you.
Page 14 is your general liability. Basically, this is your defense. This is your defense cost to make sure that you are covered in the event that the county has been responsible for bodily injury or property damage. If you are negligent in that, this is where general liability comes in. You have per occurrence, so each account you have $1 million, but you have 2 million aggregate. So that means in a policy period for a year, you can have up to $2 million in claims. Each claim can be up to $1 million. If you could have 2 of them if you had $2 million claims. You have personal and advertising injury for $1 million, and you have fire damage if you were to be responsible or negligent in a fire is $500,000, and then medical expense, any one person, if you were negligent, that would be like a slip, trip, or fall, somebody that we didn't get something de-iced or something of that nature, you have up to $10,000 for any one person on any of the premises. The exposures below is how you are rated on your general liability. And Employers Mutual Company comes in and meets with the clerk's office and goes over these numbers. So they ask, okay, how many miles do you have on street, roads, and bridges? You'll see that on the third code. They make sure they audit that and verify that those numbers are correct. If you turn the page to page 15, you have employee benefits liability. This is if there is an error or omission of somebody that maybe didn't get added to the plan insurance or some kind of benefit that wasn't done, you have coverage for this. It's $1 million. Each employee, 2 million aggregate in a policy period again. The deductible per each employee would be $1,000. And the retroactive date is 5/30/2008. So for example, if somebody came in last year and they didn't get added and they didn't realize they didn't get added because they didn't go to the doctor, and then when they did go to the doctor, they were like, oh, I don't have insurance, the retroactive date goes all the way back to 2008. So any claims that were prior to that are prior in between the time of 2020 and 2008, this is where that coverage would lie. Then we have linebacker and employment policies, practices. This actually is the coverage for you that are sitting on the board. So this covers you in your public official capacity. So decisions that you make on behalf of the insured, duties that you are doing, this is where your coverage lies. And it also covers employment practice liability, and that would be anything in the nature of like hiring and firing, age discrimination, slander, anything of that nature would be here, and you have $1 million worth of coverage on that as well. $2,500 deductible, and this actually retroactive dates back to 1992. This covers all the board and all the employees, and it also extends to the county attorney. I have inserted a flyer just for you to look at if you have any questions or what some things may be covered under that. It gives you a little more detail. If you flip that next page, there's an attorney direct program. It's actually a attorney company down in Wichita, Kansas that you can call. If you want to, if Wade wants to call them or anybody of the commission wants to call them and ask me questions about employment law or some nature or just want to get a second opinion, that is free to you as EMC policyholders. So you have the ability to talk to them about that, and it's at no cost to you.
Is there a limit on how often or how much?
Yes, so typically every quarter, I believe it's 2 hours, but they would rather, they're not going to nitpick every single minute or 15 minutes or whatnot. So if you talk to them for maybe an hour this quarter and 3 hours the next quarter, they're just going to keep track of it unless it's an excessive use, and then they'll be billing on it. If you turn the page to page 16, it's the crime policy. And basically this covers employee dishonesty, if there was forgery, alteration coverage, computer fraud, money orders, counterfeit money coverage. This is where this applies. So each employee is covered up to $50,000 for 53 employees. And again, that's audited. And it's a $500 deductible. This does exclude the treasurer, but the treasurer has her own bond for that amount. That's necessary for her. Law enforcement, again, this is our police officers, peace officers. And this is if their liability, if they were to cause bodily injury or property damage, this is where that coverage would lie. It's $1 million each occurrence and $1 million aggregate. The medical expense is $5,000 and the deductible is $2,500 per occurrence. We have 25 full-time police officers, 7 part-time, and 2 police dogs. And then we have $100,000 on unmanned aircraft liability, which is basically the drone. I've also inserted another flyer that lets you know information about law enforcement liability coverage and where that's covered, and different instances of coverage benefits is included as well. Page 17 is your cyber. Unfortunately, in this world, it's happening all the time. People are being hacked, entities are being hacked. This covers the response expense, the defense and liability, and then identity recovery. You do have $100,000 worth of coverage on that for defense and response. The identity recovery is $25,000. Computer attack is $100,000. Network security defense and liability aggregate is $100,000. And your deductible is $10,000. And I believe that we have quoted additional coverages for that as well, but we can talk about that later. Again, there's more information for cyber after that. On page 18 is the business auto. We are coming up on 3 years, and we've gone over this every 3 years. You guys as a commission have made a decision that if any auto is over 10 years, that you look at those to see if you want to put liability only on them. We've got some vehicles that are rather large that we've kept comp and collision on, but we didn't want to go ahead and assume that at all. And we wanted to discuss with you, or if you wanted us to discuss with the department heads, on that. But typically in the past, if it was 10 years or older, we took them down just to liability only. There are several vehicles that are older than 10 years. That have comp and collision on them. And if you would like, I could go, Bobby and I could meet with each department head and talk to them about the higher priced vehicles or those that are 10 years older and plus, and then report back if you would like us to, or how would you like us to handle that?
If I have any thoughts? I think it's been working pretty good the way it is. You've been getting with Angie each year, haven't you? Just
Yeah.
pretty well
Thank you for
going
helping us
over.
out with this. Yeah.
I think it's been working pretty good because most of the time, if they're over 10 years old, our deductible's more than what they're worth anyway. That's why we do that. So,
Makes sense to me.
Fred,
Yeah, that's agreeable.
okay.
So you want me to get with
Just-
Angie on that and,
Stay the way you've been doing it.
okay, okay. So we will go and review all of those. So your autos are listed all the way till page 24. On page 25, it has some additional coverages that the Auto Elite is on there. That's going to be some of the like audio, video, electronic equipment that you would see in like the police cars and stuff like that. This extends that coverage to that. Page 26 is workers' compensation. And this is, of course, if you have employees that are injured on the job arising out of duties doing their job. So we have 500,000 limit on each accident, policy limit on disease, and each employee on disease. Statutory benefit and work comp in the state of Kansas, it's unlimited. So paid out on claims, medical is unlimited in the state of Kansas. And below you'll see the class codes with the graph. These again are audited through the county clerk's office. We go over the payroll amounts and then your rate is per 100 to each side of the payroll. Experience mod is a 0.96. It has been increasing a little bit. We do have some larger claims that are open on the work comp side, and I've got more of that to discuss with you in the back. We can talk about that in more detail. Employers Mutual Company offer a EMC on-call nurse hotline. This has been really beneficial because if the employee gets hurt, they call directly to this hotline number. They don't even have to, they can tell their department head that the department head's going to have them call the nurse. So for example, you know, we've trained employees that if you're hurt, you need to report it. Well, sometimes you have employees that are like, it was a severe paper cut. I feel like I'm fine. I had pressure, it quit bleeding. So in this case, they would still contact EMC. EMC has an on-call nurse that's 24/7 that answers that call, responds to it, tells them what to do. No, you don't need to go to the clinic, or yes, you do. Either way. And then the nurse actually follows up with the employee, asks how they're doing, see how things are going. So they have that benefit in there. It's huge benefit, and it takes a lot of that burden off of the department heads to have to tell them, no, you need to go to the ER, or no, you don't, or let's see how it goes. With work comp, time is of the essence to make sure that you turn things in. And so this takes care of that. It doesn't see it as a frequency, it sees it that you're being proactive. So the EMC call nurse has been really huge for a lot of municipalities to use, and it's free.
And I think we've been utilizing that quite a bit, I think.
Yes.
Good.
And what's nice is it's 24/7, so that employee that got hurt on Friday, it's Saturday morning, can't get a hold of their department head, they can call the nurse on call and it's taken care of. If you turn to page 27, this is your umbrella coverage. Your umbrella basically is what it says. It goes over the policy limits that are down below. So it's another $1 million worth of coverage that goes over your auto, your general liability, your employer's liability, your public officials, the law enforcement liability, your cyber and drone are excluded from that. But this is an additional $1 million worth of coverage that we've added to this policy. The Kansas tort law for liability says only $500,000, but we went into extensive detail in talking about that. That is only as long as you stay in Kansas, but once you cross the Kansas lines into another state, then their tort law applies. So that was one of the reasons when you have employees going out of the state, even over to the Kansas City, Missouri side, we all agreed that it was beneficial to make sure that we had that liability coverage of an extra $1 million, and we added the umbrella policy. The next page, page 28, is the premium from last year to this year. It's under a 1% increase. The 2021 premium is $349,275. We do have some additional options down below for property. Currently, right now, for earthquake coverage, you have $1 million. EMC is offering $13,602,384 worth of coverage if you wanted it for an additional $756. The work comp, if you added $1,000 per claimant deductible, it would give you a $1,589 credit a year. Your cyber liability limits, you can increase them, and it has the three amounts below, up to $250,000, $500,000, or $1 million. And those are the additional premiums that it has to the side. And if you wanted to increase your umbrella limit option from $1 million to $2 million, would be an additional $5,032. These are just some of the additional coverages that we have currently right now. You have all of these coverages, but if it was a concern of wanting to add additional coverages, we have these rates available for you. After that page, we have in detail the breakdown for the property, for every line actually, for the property and where the increase of premium is. Property got hit pretty hard last year with the health claims. So there's some increase in coverages there, or an increase in premium there, and your blanket limit has raised. So it went from $29,901 to $33,320. The inland marine, you'll see the change request that you have had below highlighted in yellow. Those are all the different changes that have been added and or deleted. That shows on the premium increase. The next page is the general liability. Again, this is per audit. And it's broken down for each line. And there's a small, very small increase there. The crime has been flat, straight across the board. The next page is commercial auto. You'll see again the request policy changes that have been done for 2020. And that reflects the increase in premium. The workers' compensation, this is all per audit again, through the clerk's office. And they have not come out with the 2021 rates yet for the work comp, so that could change. The next page is the linebacker and employment practices. Due to some claim frequency, that has increased. The next is law enforcement, and that is the same due to some claim situations. That has increased in premium as well. The cyber coverage is flat. And the umbrella is a little bit higher due to the property that it goes over some of the increases on the other lines. I wanted to give you a brief overview of claims for the last 5 years. This gives you a little bit of a breakdown of how many claim count, the amount gross paid loss, the estimated reserves, which basically means that that's not been paid out yet, but the insurance company feels that based on actuarial numbers, this will be close to that number that will need to be paid out. Loss recovery, if it was someone else's fault or someone else's insurance paid or a deductible was paid, that is what that amount is. And so the total incurred loss. So over 5 years, EMC has paid out over $1 million plus in claims. Any questions on that? The next is work comp. That just gives you a little bit of a breakdown of the claim count, what's been paid out by the accident type, the loss reserves that are setting on that, and then again, the gross loss for all of that. And then it's broken down below in the pie chart. The last page is Coffee County's losses in the last year, how they're broken out by claim count as well. There are still 10 open claims for 2020 that we're trying to get closed. Any questions in regards to that? Claims are not fun, but that's what we pay insurance for, right? The next two forms, we have been using the change request forms for Coffee County, and we go to continuing ed every year. Bobby and I go to some specific municipality continuing ed classes. And one of the things we thought we wanted to make sure we had 2020 vision on is that anytime that any department makes a change, an addition or a deletion of an auto, we ask for the department heads that it was approved by the department head and it gets done. What we've done in the past is once we receive it, we sign it, document it, and have it on our file. After we've audited our practices, we are going to send that back to the department head so that they are aware that we have received it, just in case there was a fax or an error or an email that didn't go through. That way we will verify that in the future. The next, I have a small letter to the Board of Commissioners, basically to give us some clarification. And we're doing this with all of our municipalities. If you'll see, it has the line with a bunch of numbers over to the left-hand side. This is to let us know who we can talk to and who we can take direction from. When additions or deletions or something of that nature is happening. So I would assume the department heads on adding and deleting vehicles, but there have been times where people are like, I want to see the information in regards to how this claim was paid out, or do you have information on when that vehicle was added? And so we're more than happy to give out that information. We just need to know which of the 6 bullet points down below. Angie is the point of contact insured on the policy. So Angie, of course, has access to everything, but we didn't know per each responsibility in Coffee County. If this could be looked over and decided, and I don't know if we want to, if you want Angie and I to work on that, to work with the department heads, or how you want to do that. So for example, I'll tell you, again, we went to a continuing ed. This is in another entity, another town, not even in Coffee County. That the person called in, said, we need to delete this building because they were selling the building. The building didn't go through yet to get sold. They had to push out the closing date. So it was an entity that was selling the building to another entity. And the insurance company terminated the coverage on it because they said to. And the person who called it in didn't realize that the date got pushed out. It had a fire. The building caught fire. Total loss, no coverage because it was deleted. So it's kind of one of those things. We learn from other people's mistakes, and I thought, oh, okay, we need to make sure that we have a policy put in place by what we do add and delete. So I know that sometimes you guys put vehicles up for auction or what have you. We want to make sure we don't delete them until after the auction instead of prior to the auction. So those are some of those things that we thought, okay, if we can have hindsight 2020 on this, let's go ahead and maybe put something in place.
I think this form would be a good internal form,
Okay.
but I think we only need one contact for you. In other
Okay.
words, department heads can contact the clerk's office, and then the clerk's office would still be the one that contacted you.
Okay.
That's my thinking on it.
I would agree.
There was only be one contact for you.
So, and respectfully, so if a county commissioner comes into my office and wants to look at anything on the policy, I need to tell them to refer to Angie. Or wait.
To look at anything on the policy?
Yeah, or want to know status on a claim or anything of that nature, I need to have them go to Angie. That's going to be my total point of contact, which is fun. But these are some scenarios that have come up.
I don't know if I have that answer, but I'm not sure that a county commissioner has the authority to go in and do it by themselves anyway.
Okay.
There has to be a decision of the board.
Okay.
So I would say maybe that our contact might be, maybe we might want to add our county attorney on as also the county clerk. So if there's a question, commission can go through the county attorney to find out that.
Okay.
That would be my thinking. Great.
I can agree with that.
Okay. Okay, that's,
Okay.
we agree.
If I don't jump up and shout, I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right.
So that is what I have for your review for your 2021 upcoming policy and then the activity on 2020. Anybody have any questions for me?
Mike Blaine, we have a new commissioner on somewhere, and I think I've asked this question before, but I'm not real sure of the answer. If a commissioner is going to county business in their own vehicle, are they covered by under the county's policy?
First, your insurance, your personal insurance would respond, and then the county would respond after that.
And that also includes coming to commission meetings, right? Scheduled meetings?
You're in the act of the duty of what you're doing.
Yep. Okay.
Would that cover other county employees as well?
So not coming to work because
No,
they're
if
not.
they were going to a meeting.
Oh, yes. Mhm. Their insurance would be primary, and then secondary would be county insurance.
Anybody have anything else? Any questions?
Okay. I've got some goodies for you guys, just in case they're all
Please don't wait.
sugar-free, no, they're all full of sugar. So, all right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tom,
I didn't have a motion prepared today, but I don't know if you want to look at this over for a week, or you want to just, go ahead and approve the 2021 insurance renewal with Trust Point Insurance for Kansas.
You guys
Let's
want
go ahead.
Thank
Yeah, we'll go ahead. Would you just read the motion in? We'll go ahead and take care of it so that it doesn't get delayed. You'll-
Move to approve the 2021 insurance renewal with Trust Point Insurance of Burlington, Kansas.
All second. Been moved second to approve the insurance with Trust Point. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried 3-0. Thank you. Anybody, you need a break, Tim?
I could use one.
Okay, we'll take a quick 10-minute break.
We got kind of
Morning. Tom, how we doing?
I'm right there again.
Good, sir.
Only so. All done the way it is.
Okay, I need it back.
Are we gonna get snow tomorrow or not?
You know, I was listening to the forecast, so they have a 20-30% chance just to kind of cover themselves, but what was funny though is I was working out on the farm and then came in town, grabbed something to eat, and then came back, and a vehicle was coming from the south heading north, stopped at the stoplight right there downtown, and as they stopped, just long enough, snow came off their front grill, okay? And I'm like, where did they get that? And I guess they had snow down in Oklahoma.
Oh, yes, we had some friends in Pahuska that had 5.5 inches.
Wow.
Whoa.
I just met a vehicle just at the stoplights, come west here, black Excursion, and it had that much snow over the entire vehicle.
Right?
So it was going northbound, trying to get warm, I suppose.
That is, wow.
Pahuska, that's Supreme Birds, on Facebook last night. My wife was talking to him,
Uh-huh.
5.5 inches. That's the most snow they've had in 20 years.
That's amazing. I mean, you know, you would think we would get it first, but it went south. It was
Yeah.
south of us, way south of us, all the snow. So,
We had about 8 to 10 inches in Satanta,
okay, Jeremy, I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
okay.
so
Where at?
in Satanta, where I
Okay.
was this weekend, and so I didn't know, but the sun came out yesterday and cleared up the roads, so wasn't bad coming home.
Just make it sloshy and muddy and nasty.
No, it wasn't too bad yesterday coming back. It was in town, of course, but
A bunch of friends of mine are going out pheasant this weekend and next week, and I hope it snows.
yeah,
Be nice if snow on the ground to go pheasant hunting for 'em, but
there'll probably still be some on the ground, because it's gonna stay cold, and then I think they have 60% chance of getting some more tomorrow.
Well, that's not too good. They set quite a bit then at that point. I mean, you know,
Oh,
for
yeah.
pheasant there, I mean, you really pretty much have to walk right up on them.
that was fun.
So that's a lot, or the dogs,
See if the
yeah,
dog will kick him up.
yeah, a good dog.
I'd much rather stomp on them to get them up than just flying ahead of him if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a shot, so.
Or you have to use a 30-06 to catch 'em.
Yeah, usually they're 100 yards in front of you.
Yeah,
Can't
Yes,
get to 'em.
catch that pheasant.
You wanted the new commissioners.
No, I'm the county engineer,
Engineer,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
so mine's weekly reports.
okay.
He's the new county commissioner coming on, Mr. Knight.
Don't be spreading lies.
I guess there is that still, the taking of the oath.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom's our new sheriff, he's coming on.
Where do you live?
A mile and a half east of the fire plant on 16th.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Congratulations.
Good to be back.
They're gonna have to fire him before they can elect him.
You already looked.
Timothy?
How's Tom doing this morning?
Good. Appreciate it, thank you.
So are you guys gonna get the vaccines, one of the first liners to get vaccines?
I don't believe so.
I think they were talking like the nurses and the,
Old folks homes, your nursing homes,
nursing homes.
and frontline, and then they'll go to,
Yeah.
your service people, like
No,
The
first
senior
responders, everything,
homes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It didn't correspond, just wanted to make sure.
There's a new movie coming out called COVID-23.
Oh, is that right?
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Talking about transporting people that have not been vaccinated and so on and so forth. You wait for it.
Yeah, okay. What was that, that movie, it's called 12 Monkeys.
Do we need a voucher for all three?
That's an oldie.
commissioners?
That's an oldie. Yeah, you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
If it is, I don't see it.
Just, yeah,
it's actually
Yeah, here it
kind
is.
of the
Okay,
same
I'm sorry.
scenario.
It's different.
You remember the movie?
You watch some movies.
Something
You see
new.
what the time is of our country right
I've
now.
done this for a while.
We've been setting this for a long time.
Yeah. Folks been thinking about this for a long time.
Okay, well, we're a little bit early, but Jeremy, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and take you.
I'd be happy to be taken.
Okay. Take him out, Tom.
That's paperwork.
Good morning. I just wanted to come in front of you guys again and just make sure that there's anything that you guys need, that you know how to contact me and get a hold of me. I know that the ladies typically can get a hold of Terry if there's any questions that you guys have. But I wanted to make sure you guys knew I was still here, and I know we've had a lot of changes in the last couple of months since I've been here, but I wanted to say hello again and just be here for a little bit of information if you guys haven't already gotten some of that information. It sounds like some of the vaccination information, you guys have maybe been presented on some of the phases. I think a lot of it right now, we're still getting information, but we're working internally at the hospital and the clinics to work with the state agencies to make sure that all the information that we have is current on the vaccinations. It looks like we're going to begin receiving vaccinations. I know that Friday Pfizer looked like they were starting to ship, and then this week I know Moderna is planning to start shipping vaccinations. And all of the details that go along with the different brands that it's going to require different types of storage and those types of things. So we're preparing for that and the distribution of those vaccinations as they come in. I wanted to see if there was any type of information that you guys like to receive on a monthly basis, from reports to data or anything like that from the hospital or clinics that you're not receiving right now.
If, it wouldn't be bad, we require the minutes and stuff from all of our entities for those, and if you, could include in that maybe, how your budget's going,
Yeah,
so we could kind of keep an eye on in case somewhere toward the end of the year, let's see if we need to do something different.
yep.
If you would, please.
I
I'd
could
like
do
that.
I could do a real brief, financial narrative, on the budget and everything like that, so. Not a problem. Anything else that you guys think you might want to see? If not, I'll try to, make my presence every month or so, just to make sure that you guys, if you have any thoughts that you haven't reached out to me, that you know that I'm here. And just that we're continuing to promote, the overall teamwork of the county and the health that we're working together, so. Anything else that you guys can think of this morning?
You might stop in, say hi to Lindsay and let her know
Yeah,
that you're,
yeah, I can do that.
if you would.
Yep. All right. Tell these guys that they missed out on seeing me.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, have a great day.
Right there.
All right, Wayne,
Okay,
we'll bring you on up.
well, I didn't bring any popcorn this time, so,
Dang it.
well, good morning. Okay. Special issue check. And then we have also retirement I'd like to visit with you about. Okay.
Did you want an executive session?
No, not on that one.
Okay.
But I'll go into it here in just a minute. Let me get to my motions though. No road permits, 1 zoning permits included. At this point, landfill is still operational. And I would like to, since I do have landfill, is ask if you would consider allowing us to be closed on January the 2nd. That would be the first Saturday of the month. Normally, we are open on the first and third Saturdays. And so with the holiday and such, we would ask that if the commission would consider to close the landfill or allow the landfill to be closed on January the 2nd, 2021.
Would you be open the following Saturday in lieu of that?
At this point, we were just hoping to be back, just open on the third Saturday. But if that would be one of the stipulations, I mean, we could put that in there, but,
Well,
so it'd be the third Saturday would be still the date that would be open.
no. You'd be open the Saturday after Christmas?
No. This Saturday would be the third Saturday,
Okay,
so,
my only concern is, are we gonna get, people are gonna be aggravated because they can't get their Christmas trash put out or dump it. I don't know how many people do it themselves.
right.
That would be the only concern that I might have, is if we're there, we're not after Christmas, we're not there, and we're not there after January the 1st, where people can put all their bottles.
Well, don't have to be a decision today. If you would like to consider it, and then we can talk about it next week. It'd be just enough time that we can get it published, or Angie can help me get it published. I would think it'd have to come from a decision made by the commission to be published and so on.
Well, January the 1st is on a Friday, so Saturday's a holiday anyway.
I was thinking just the Friday's the holiday. Is that not correct, Angie?
Is that not correct?
I was thinking January 1,
So
which is
we
Friday.
don't carry it over?
Well, I'm thinking we typically would if it's during the work week, like if it landed on Sunday, we would close that Monday, so.
But since it's on a
If
Friday,
it was on the Saturday, we'd be closed Friday then.
yeah.
I personally don't have a problem with it.
I don't know either.
Would you be okay with that?
We're open.
Then what I would do then is is that something you would want me to get published in the paper, or
Whatever.
that we would not be open on? Okay, so that's the consensus, the discussion we have, is to be allowed to be closed on January the 2nd.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, then the next one would be the motion I have in hand. As you see, the retirement that went around, and then I'm gonna have just a little discussion on that one, but I'd like to go ahead and get the motion out of the way, if you don't mind. And that would be to ask to advertise and hire a full-time survey party chief. And we would publish this in the paper and look internally as well. But that's where we'd be at.
Do you not have one now?
That's the retirement.
That is the retirement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you fill this in-house, then are you going to be looking to fill another position?
It would rotate around like that. But the survey party chief does have a certain, as far as requirements to be met, is probably going to be difficult in-house. I'm not saying that they're not there. Of course, you leave the door open. You don't know who's going to apply, but there are certain requirements that would be required to be met on that position.
Okay. Based upon recommendation, the county and engineer move to approve the request for authorization to advertise and hire one full-time survey party chief. No new positions being added. This request will only fill a vacant position within the department because of the resignation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Been moved second. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries 3-0.
Okay, thank you. So now what I'd like to do is to say that this employee, not unlike other employees that we have in our department and through the county, is a lot of times we're tasked with other jobs as needed. And this particular employee was actually our wastewater class 1 operator. This is for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. We have Jacobs Creek is basically a wastewater system, a lagoon system that we have in the county, and the county maintains that lagoon system for Jacobs Creek. And so with that, we're required to have an operator that's certified by the KDHE. He's our only operator that's certified. And so what we'd like to do on that is ask the commission to entertain using him as a contract employee for a period up to 6 months. We expect another employee, because there's required experience that needs to be working underneath an operator for a year, and that year period would be January 1. And so we expect another employee to be able to rise up and be able to take that test and basically get licensed, but it'll be about 6 months from now before that happens, or before that person's eligible to take that test. What this contract work's going to basically conduct, or basically consist of, is 1 weekly inspection. So what they're doing is going out there and checking the pumps. There's 2 pumps that basically is a lift system, grinder and lift system. And so they're checking those, making sure everything's operational. Those pumps also have a warning, basically buzzer that goes with them as well. So if they're not operational, the landowners in that area know to give him a call. And then he'll go out and check them too. And he'll either have to flip a switch or otherwise. But at least that's a once a week inspection. At that point too, he does just a visual looking at the lagoons, making sure we don't have any problems there. And so that's once a week. And then once a month is what we would have is that individual to report to KDHE a form via on the computer that's required to show basically if there's been any discharge or no discharge in cell number 4. And so that would be another report monthly that would be required underneath that license, underneath our operation of the lagoon system. So mine would be to ask that if you'd like to entertain that, then what it amounts to is basically his wages that we have the benefits with, And basically miles, I don't know what the mile rate is. You remember, Angie, the federal mileage rate is what, 160 or something? I'm not for sure.
But it's 0.56, I think, last time, yeah.
So, and then you'd have like the mileage rate. That would be part of this.
It's 0.575.
Is that the benefit point, or is that the mileage rate?
It's a
That was
mileage.
great.
Oh, I thought it was $1 or
The
something.
contractor would not have
Doesn't have
benefits.
benefit.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question on that person. I know the existing person does in your department. Would that person not be under our sanitation director instead of under your department? Should they not be, since it's,
Well, I wouldn't mind that, Bob. It's just happened, it has not been. It has not been. It's always operated out of our department. I asked Marilyn if she is licensed for that, and she replied back via message on the phone that she was not licensed.
but even if that department is not licensed, the licensed person should maybe still be under sanitation instead of under you.
That's fine with me,
That's something we can discuss,
yes,
but right now, I think we're in a situation where we still have to have this person, so
yes, sir.
we'll go with that, but that's something we need to be thinking about and talking about what department that would be under.
Okay, well, that would be fine. I mean, if you wanted to change it out of the department, it makes sense to me. But if that's the case too, then the person that we have currently in line for that, we'd have to figure out how you want to do that. That or Maryland basically.
That could be in our discussion.
Yeah, that could be in your
We
discussion.
try to figure something out with that, yeah.
So,
So,
yes, no, I'd welcome that. Just let us know. I know that we do have periodic maintenance out there that basically the highway department assists with. So some of your thoughts on this is think about this too, that there are times in which those pumps have to be replaced. Now, it's not to say that we do the work for that particular operation, but we also do the mowing around the lagoons and then basically any tree removal such as that. So that's part of the requirements. So you'd have to consider that too, how you'd want that done.
on his weight available, we're gonna talk contract. I think we might need to discuss this in executive session. But if we're gonna talk contract and pricing and stuff for that,
Oh, if you like, that'd be fine.
I need to see what Wade thinks on that. But I think that'd be something should definitely want to throw out and discuss of whether your department or whether the sanitation department would be the one responsible for it. Since I never did understand why it would be really under road and bridge. Other than you had the operator.
Yeah, I don't really know. I know it's basically, it has its own little fund that we actually have to charge back time to. I mean, the Jacobs Creek Fund is an enterprise fund out of the budget, and we actually charge time and then basically get the time reimbursed back to Road and Bridge for our time that we have, or expense or cost. I think Angie knows that.
But even if you have another employee, we can make that other employee possibly work and still do the exact same thing and get their charge back for their time that they spend, even though they would be under sanitation while they're doing that.
It would make sense, and I follow you, I'm not disagreeing one way or the other. It would make sense if they do that, then they would be licensed to be able to do it. And then our employees could work underneath their license.
Right.
Totally agree with you. But as I understand it, once again, I did not visit, other than she had left a message, because I had left a message, asked her if she was qualified or not. Or she does that, and she said she wasn't licensed.
We'll work that out, but I mean, something to think about.
Yeah, no, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. Well, while we're waiting to get an answer there,
Okay, Wade will be here. Go ahead if you have something.
you want to do construction zone, we can talk about or discuss construction zone. I think there's enough of those. Construction zone, as we have planned for this week, is the liner rock, the filter rock that we have at the landfill. Keeping in mind, cell number 4, half of it was already done. The other half, they had placed the road in there, and at this point, we're still needing to get the filter rock down. Actually, KDHE is asking or requesting for that to be done. So that's, it's a major activity we need to accomplish sooner than later. And then at this point, we're still working on, let's see, lost my notes. We're still working on Matthias Lake, that area. And there they are. And so on that one is we're hoping to finish the ditch on Oxen at the end of this week. And then at that point, we'll be moving over at Ninth Lane. And then after that, we'll be working on Native. We're also in the process, since we're discussing Matthias Lake, we're also in the process of setting a large entrance there as well on Native. And that takes care of the report on Matthias Lake with the ditching and the bridge crew as far as the landfill. Mowing, cutting brush countywide. We have at least 2 locations. We're looking for core samples. This is for the asphalt that we're proposing. One of them is going to be up there in the Lebo area. This is be over there by the Lebo Lake. We're wanting to see what that existing pavement consists of. Either it's all chip and seal, or there's some hot mix asphalt we don't know, so we're going to go ahead and core it and find out. Because that's going to make the determination if we mill it or not for our 2021 projects. And then we also have another location that would be Reamers Point that we're looking at coring on that road as well. So we have some decracking, but it doesn't appear to be subgrade issues, but decracking normally is associated with subgrade. So we're wanting to take a core on that and see what the actual pavement looks like. Boom mowing, countywide, and normal road maintenance, and sign maintenance countywide as well. We will be placing those, basically that, I don't know a better way of saying it, but the horse and buggy sign. I mean, we're going to be placing those over on Angus. And so what we found so far is visiting with the folks that is using that type of vehicle, actually is traveling to, I believe it's 16th Road to Hartford. Is basically where they're at. So we'll have those from 12th Road clear up to Hartford at this point. Eventually, they said that they may be going south originally, so they may go down to 12, and you might see something there as well. But that'd be one of the new signs that you're going to see up that we have not had in the county, or we do not currently have in the county. So that's my report at this time. So if you have any questions, I'm available. Or
How are they doing? Are they grinding on old Highway 50 shoulders yet?
Yes, they are.
Are they getting them laid back?
Well, they just started here Thursday, and then they were expecting the rain there on Friday, so they didn't do anything on Friday. And so they started actually on the south side of the road, heading west. And so from 75, south side of the road headed west. And so what we found is some of the millings that they had ground up was actually too high, so they were going back to actually blade that where it would drain and then get the compaction. So the idea on this is to grind that up to a point which we can basically level it out and get drainage, and then compact the shoulder back. And that would put it back to its original 1930s construction that was 20 foot wide.
And when we do that, are we going to move those cones back off the side of the road?
Currently, they're 14 foot from the center line, which would be 2 foot outside of the existing asphalt. And then after we mill that up, they're still 14 foot. So now they would be 4 foot outside of the existing pavement. But technically, we could actually remove those cones after it's all done.
I've had a lot of people talk to me about that, and they say that that's probably worse now than it was without them, because you've got to, when you're going driving down the road and you meet someone, they're concerned whether they're going to pull over and hit a cone or whether they're going to hit the other vehicle. So as soon as we can get that done and get those back a little farther anyway, I think we'd be better off.
Probably at this point, I'd be removing the cones. I'd like to keep the reduced speed limit in there for safety,
And I'm fine with that.
but I'd probably remove the cones at this point. Because once we made it, where we don't have, the spalled out areas, the potholes that occur along that edge, and then actually have it rolled down with the shoulder, the gravel, and compacted, then it would be an open road.
I'm okay with the speed limit, let people drive a little slower and enjoy the scenery as they go through there.
It definitely makes it safer. I feel it makes it safer. Probably not, there's probably a few folks that don't like it. They may be in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, but get up on the interstate, they're still in a hurry there too, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
So,
Okay. Wade's on his way in. Got anything else, or anybody have questions of Wayne, or?
Okay.
Wade comes in, we'll ask him about,
I'll hang around.
okay. Good.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you. Is the Goldberg still planning on coming in?
They're doing Starleaf.
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing Starlink.
That's scheduled for 10:45.
Okay. Tom, you're here. Did you have anything you wanted to visit with us about?
From
Anything?
the bus terminal or from the cemetery?
Well, I guess we could do a round, we could kind of start a round table. Angie, I have a question first. I guess.
Going from the cemetery.
When are we gonna do January checks and vouchers?
Back there.
What day?
The only thing we had there was,
Okay. I have I have another meeting the 26th. Didn't want to.
This month.
This month.
I think you asphalt right now inside the cemetery, around the cemetery. I think that's. One thing is ever.
And then we're doing year end on the 31st.
I think it's all just been, I think years ago, I think we all flash in there for the subgrade. And just put
Okay.
some seal over the top of it.
that's probably.
Oh,
Do, either you guys want to go ahead and set up a few of the dates for next year on the checks and vouchers? I mean, we can always change it, but just kind of get an idea.
February, we do,
Yeah, I know.
he did a lot.
Wednesday the 24th.
Flash subgrade.
For me, Fred?
Yeah.
Okay, March,
29th.
on Monday.
April, we got the 28th.
28th, okay.
May 7th. And Tim, if something looks good for you, leave that one.
I think they're all. Okay,
And then June 28th.
let's see.
Stop there.
The
Oh, wait, May.
May,
May.
May 27th is not gonna work for me. I have a meeting in Topeka those days.
Actually, we're closed that Monday, right, for Labor Day, or, not Labor Day, Memorial Day. So we could possibly look for the 25th. Maybe a couple days early, but we can maybe look that.
That'll work for me. That'll be my regular day off.
Okay, that work.
I think we can squeeze that in there to make that work for you guys. And then June 28th. I suppose we can stop there for now.
Sure. All right. Gives us an idea then, kind of, into other concepts.
Donna, were you jotting these dates down?
Tim may end up having some, new commissioner meetings or something, so we kind of get you a hint, idea on some of the conflicts.
I was gonna say, if you were jotting these down, you might see if Jesse gets those dates.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, okay, Angie, do you have anything for roundtable?
I do, Friday, well, for years, I guess I'll back up history, to give you a little history. for years over on the sheriff's side, and Tom, you'll know, I think, as well. We've had trouble with drains down in the basement. Sometimes things get put in the drains, toilets and things like that. And then to get it backed up down in the basement, it kind of comes up over by the dispatch bathrooms. Are you familiar with that, Tom? Okay. So it's been an ongoing thing for years and years and years and years. And we always thought if you could go down there and, or what has always happened, I should say, go down and just run water down to try to clear those drains out or whatever may have been put in the drain. Well, Friday, we had a same thing that always happens. And the plumber that came in, actually, they have a camera now, so they were able to look down into the drains and see what was going on in that. What it looks like is the way that the drains were put in years ago when the building was built. The main flow of the sewer is a straight shot this way. And there's some other drains that go into the sump is down this way. So this stuff that's coming from the jail is going like this, and it's not taking a turn and going down the sump. So why it would have ever been built or designed that way, I have no idea. So anyway, the plumber suggested that we look at going in and putting in some new pipe to make the flow go toward the pump instead of passing it. Because what it's doing is the force that water is pushing anything that gets put in the drain down to that other pipe, and then it backs up, and it never takes a turn. Does that make sense, what I'm saying there? Okay. So anyway, so he suggested putting in a different type of curvature to push that flow down to the sump, and then allow those other drains to drain into that sump also, instead of it backing up in that one line.
Does this consist of digging the floor and everything else?
It will consist of that. It's about a 2 foot, we estimate about a 2 foot cut down that we have to go in to redo those lines a little bit. He's gonna get back with me on the cost of what it would cost. But, I mean, it's either that or we continue to do what we're doing now. And that is, once it gets backed up and full so much, we have to get the plumber to come in, and then they've got to go in there and dig it all out to restart it all over again.
My thought on that is we're discussing the jail with the Goldberg now. If we're going to move out of there or do a totally review, I would like to not have these problems, but maybe we could.
That's true.
Kind of.
However, the only thing I will say is that if those bathrooms over there are gonna continue to be used, we're still gonna have that same problem. I'm talking even down in dispatch and for emergency management. I mean, we can hold off. We don't have to do it right away, just to see what the outcome.
But that's what I'm thinking. Let's see where we're headed first, and then we can maybe take care of this. That's my thinking, to take care of the situation. No sense doing something and then tearing it out.
No, and I agree
And
with
tearing it
that.
out again.
But I just wanted to let you know what we ran into on Friday. And he is gonna give us just an idea of what that would cost, but no, I agree with you on waiting. I just know that even if the jail moves, we're still gonna have the same problem, although it just may take longer for it to build up.
But even if the jail does move, then it'd be easier to get in there and access all that and fix it too, without.
Well, no, this isn't a cutout in the jail. This is down, I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. This is down in the basement where the stuff flows down and goes out there. It's not the jail, the actual jail line, like we cut in up there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not that one.
Okay.
It's downstairs.
Okay, well, we can get an estimate and
Yeah,
see
just
what it
to
is.
have an idea.
And Goldbergs are gonna be in today, so that might be another little step forward on what we're going to do, because we don't really know what we're gonna do with that if we do change over here, so I think it's a good idea to keep tabs on.
Yeah. So anyway, that was really all I had today, other than I do have the election book for you guys to sign with the official big red, so you can do that, and it's already signed, so. And that's all I have.
Tim?
I want to do a little different today with all the bad news going on. I'm going to congratulate Jess Pope, who over the weekend in Arlington, Texas, bareback riding, got overall average the first time at the National Rodeo.
Yeah, I watched that, and I was surprised. I didn't know anybody from Waverly was doing it.
Yeah. Thought that was pretty neat. Hard work.
Fred?
No, I don't have anything.
Donna?
Let's see. I spoke with Amber and Carl, and both candidates mentioned that they would be available on Monday, December 28th for interviews instead of next Monday. Are you guys okay with that?
I would be okay with that because we kind of put them in a spot.
Does that sound good to everyone?
Fine with me.
Does that work for you, Kim?
That's fine with me.
And then also, I received a call from one of your constituents that they watched the commission meetings and wondered if they can't tell who's speaking, and they wondered if you could raise your hand when you speak.
It is very hard to watch the videos, very hard. With the mask on.
Okay.
I
Anything
could
else?
probably give you their phone number because it's one
Anything
of your
else?
constituents. That's it for me.
I don't have anything at the moment, so we're waiting for Goldberg, so did you have anything?
Yep.
So we'll go ahead, Fred, and we'll sign the books and we'll take care of the vouchers and all that while we're waiting. Unless, Jesse, do you have anything you want to say?
There's one of the initial here in the middle.
Because I initially, I'll have.
Yeah.
We need to get that three.
Do we have new COVID numbers for the county
Just as of last week.
last week? Last I seen was 40.
I spoke with Lindsay a little bit earlier and she said she didn't have anything ready yet, so
45
they're in the process.
45.
current active.
And you guys been out playing?
Oh, yeah, we got
You want to sign the
10%.
book?
Really?
While we're waiting.
I think I've had two. I've had two drivers out
Mhm.
out of 45 employees.
Yeah.
We need to do more, especially when my guys are all in the foreign country.
Yeah,
You know, we was just quarantined for 14. We all with the grandkids, my boy's girlfriend, she works in the nursing home, reporting she gets tested on a Monday and a Wednesday.
mhm,
Well, Monday, 2 Mondays ago, she was negative, but when they tested her Wednesday, she was positive. She lives with us. So we had to quarantine because we was in the same household.
right.
Worked out great because of deer hunting. I mean, I did a lot of deer hunting. Just that one day.
Well, you didn't get sick, you're good.
You know, I just had cold.
Yeah.
Stuffiness.
A lot of people, it just affects them differently,
Yeah.
so many.
Yeah, I had one evening that my chest was real heavy, felt like somebody sick.
Mhm.
She said she had that for about 3 days.
Okay. Oh, man, that is anything.
I hope it all had
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm never 100%, so you never know.
Otherwise, it takes 4 months for that.
Tim, we'll be looking at that, so no problem on that guardrail. We'll be looking at it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Did anyone call you?
On some dust control last week.
The guy called me, he lives over there, south of Del Monte, over there by the Hartford dump area.
Okay.
The old Hartford dump area.
Uh-huh.
They're wanting to close the road. You guys don't really maintain it.
What they have to do on that one, which they can, is just a petition, an application's in the clerk's office. Angie gets it, so they just have to come in and have the legal description. And then basically fill out the form. And then after that, then it's the whole process of publication and setting up the meeting and the viewing of the road closure.
He'd already talked to the fishing game, and they
Right,
were
it's been- took you in this.
also because they had some poaching out there that day.
See, that's been a big problem. We could not get it, anytime we dealt, well, you know that. Anytime we dealt with fish and game and it was on that road or a road that led to their property. If they said no,
I can go home and get a
We
sandwich.
had down my road here, a few weeks ago, we had some guys from Allen County, or Anderson, over there down that day and Tim and Simon called. I said, the road's no good. They're either on you, they're on the guy from Oklahoma, they're on me, or they're on refuge. They called Fred, Fred called us. And then back there on the refuge calling cookies.
I just,
Okay.
So he's using electronic phones, pros in, still the pros.
Thank you.
Confiscated their damn weapons and everything, they wrote them all sorts of tickets and stuff.
Well, I'm curious, what is it? I mean, killing trolls, that's just a,
There's a season.
there's a season for
Oh,
trolls.
yeah.
There's, surely they don't need to do it.
I gotta hope not.
Yeah, I would,
Missed a couple pages, but you could.
It's
wait
fine,
until-
it's fine.
okay,
do this.
have them come
You
in.
just take a plastic bag out there, you know, food. Have a fishing string, shake it, all. Swarm it.
Did I miss?
Is that right?
And they'll come in and lay and fight that, you know. You gotta do it.
I haven't done it, okay, got to, there's, well, of course, you know, there's a season for it. Okay. I did not know that. Yeah, you don't wanna cross the fishing game, they'll pick you up. Oh, man, that's good.
I'm gonna call that guy, because they did mention that they still had some issues on that road. And the new administrator had to close that one off,
Yeah,
which is ours.
yeah,
And one on the other side of the creek too. So I'm gonna call and see if they're, whether they take that or not.
Hmm.
Or at least make it seasonal, a seasonal thing for the refuge or something. They have the key to the lock there,
mm-hmm.
you know.
I think that's possible. I mean, what it amounts to is basically it would vacate the county road, but it would enter into an easement between the landowners on that road. I think that would have to be kind of how that would be handled. Yeah, so that's a possibility. Then that way you guys could put a gate up there
Right.
at the beginning of the road. I think that would solve a lot of it. The thing is, you know, the wildlife and parks would have to recognize it. They would have to accept it. Denver, the real estate main office for the US.
I went down there and picked up 6 tires that was thrown out there
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Those dead end roads, yeah. There's no need to keep up our landfill rates are. Okay.
I mean, if the guy behind, if either here of them make it Got it, raise it.
Hello?
That's what I do.
Get all your Christmas shopping done online? My wife's been doing a lot online.
Oh, yeah. Because there's so much weight up.
It's really nice
So
to
you
be
can't
out with you.
cinch it down.
I didn't want to be out in the car.
Right.
Stopping.
Seems like every day something on the board.
Yeah, so I took the kingpin off of one of those.
There's a lot on the mail carrier.
You know, look on the receiver.
I think they even delivered yesterday on Sunday. Not the mail, but yeah. Packages were.
Did you have something else for us?
No, I was looking at the bill.
Bob?
Lapses.
Let me sign some in.
Yeah, yeah. Tim's got 2 units here.
What? Sure, I can.
Starting in front of the tree.
See, when my son was sitting in front of me. Oh. I put the weight of the horse back in the back axle of the trailer. Yeah, that's what I did.
Who is this? What's his name? What's his name, Johnny?
It doesn't have a name. That says Jeff Wheeler on the screen. Jeff Wheeler.
Two Newlands and the third person.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We hear you, but can't see you.
Well, I'm trying to work on that.
Okay.
This is the newer program. I'm not sure why my video feed's not coming up.
Not our end, Brad, not our end.
No, he's.
I think it's on mine. I've got a different camera on than I usually set.
For you,
There you
running
go.
this will be Jeff Wheeler from Goldberg Architects will be here for the jail study.
Might help if I have the camera were open. So,
Okay, you're up, Jeff.
apologies.
You're up. You're up.
All right.
Can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Yep.
good.
I think, Larry Goldberg should be on here momentarily.
There you go.
Jeff, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Just wanted to make sure. So Larry's on. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, Larry, so here's the. I guess we can, so.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, you go ahead anytime you're ready.
All right, Tom, commissioners, thank you for allowing us to join you virtually this morning. We've got a fair amount of material to go over. Is Sheriff Rogers there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I want to start this off. This sort of has two parts of this morning. The first part has to do with updating, the possibility of updating the county courthouse in terms of COVID and other pathogenic issues in the ventilation. We've got a fairly detailed approach and analysis done, and I'm going to turn this part of the meeting over to Jeff Wheeler, our engineer from Ross and Berezini. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and review it with the county board?
All right. So we provided a report back to the county, I think back in August. It ran through some recommendations for the existing courthouse and jail and county offices. There was some feedback in that meeting, and what it ended up getting down to was pared down to some upgrades for the existing HVAC units within your facility, with the installation of some UV lights within the air handling units themselves. Looking at bipolar ionization units, that put an ionization out in the air and helps microbacterial pathogens fall out of the air stream quicker. And then also increasing the filtration within those units to a higher MERV level on the HVAC side. We had talked about doing some hands-free toilets and faucets upgrade. That looks like it had already been implemented, so we've pulled that out of the report. And then the other part of it was looking at UV lights within some of your more assembly area spaces, such as your conference room that you're in now, your main lobby, the courtroom, and then the 911 call center area. Places where, you're gonna either have a large assembly of people in order to maintain proper operations, or in an area such as your 911 call center where you need to have your operators there at all times and have a safe environment for them. And then the last part of that was also implementing thermal camera stations where you can actually do temperature checks on people as they enter into your building, both up in your main lobby and then down in your jail area for those inmates. So that was something we talked about. I know that had been pushed through to try to get some of the CARES Act funding, and that had not come across. And then my understanding, Larry, if that's correct, this is still something that you do want to implement for your facility. So I guess the question that we have now is, how do you want to implement this study and turn it into a full project?
But Jeff, let's drop back a step. Maybe at this juncture, the county board doesn't want to necessarily make that kind of investment if the vaccine's on the horizon. But what begs the question is that whether it's radiological, pathogenic, chemical, or what, is this prudent for a top grade county and governmental facilities to implement this regardless of the nature of the vaccine or the nature of the immediate COVID crisis?
Now this has, yes, it is very much on the forefront for the COVID-19, but this also has value as far as just general flu viruses, any microbacterial pathogens that are in the air. So it is something that can be implemented and help reduce the general stuff that you see every year with the flu, or who knows, maybe now on the horizon in the future with other similar bacterial infections such as COVID-19 or whatever might be coming down the road next. So there are some advantages to doing it. We put together some general costs for this, and depending on how it's implemented, we're somewhere probably about $250,000 to $350,000 construction ranges are our preliminary estimate as far as the getting this implemented into the current courthouse and jail facility. I guess open to questions if there's any questions on what we provided in the past.
Bob Schritt here. I guess I haven't seen all of I haven't been in on your meetings. Some others have sat in on. But if you implement a temperature check for the courthouse, have you included the cost of what it's going to take to maintain that as part of your cost? Because if you're going to have somebody checking temperatures when you come in, you're going to have somebody there all the time.
So what it is it's a standalone station, and you can go do a temperature check. You can just walk up to it, do a temperature check. If there's an alarm that goes off, then it would have to go to like a second person with another handheld device. And at that point, you would need to have some additional involvement up at the front of your facility. So beyond that, no, there's not really any extra cost that we've associated with that.
But you're always going to have that second person there just in case, right?
That, or maybe it's a phone saying, hey, please dial here before entering the building. But yes, you'd have to have some additional involvement in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, I guess no more questions, Larry.
Okay. So this is something we would ask that the board take under deliberation and instruct us on whether it wants something like this to be implemented. or held in abeyance and for a future time or discarded or whatever, but, we're here and Jeff, if we were to solicit competitive bids for implementing this, how would that work? Or would we go to that local, heating and cooling contractor that has been the primary, source for maintenance and repairs to the courthouse HVAC system?
I think that's something we need county input on how they'd like to solicit this. I mean, we'd be happy to work with your local HVAC and electrical contractors who have had some maintenance contracts on your building already. Or if we needed to, we could easily put together a solicitation package that could go out and get competitive bids for that. So both are viable options. A lot of it depends on how this would need to proceed as far as getting funding for it and pricing.
Bob again. I guess my question, and I kind of agree with Larry with the vaccine and everything that's come out. Are we jumping the gun? And also, we're doing the jail study. With the jail study, we're going to probably possibly change a lot of things the way they go on this county. Are we going to put a lot of things in place, then we're going to turn around and spend money to change them? I understand COVID is real now, but hopefully with vaccines or whatever, it's not going to be near the threat that it is. So where do we draw the line?
Well, the issue, and we're going to get into this as our agenda moves forward, Commissioner, you're absolutely right. We have got, at least programmatically, a number of county courthouse functions being considered for movement into a proposed justice center that forms the other part of the study. But the fact is that a county administration center or a county courthouse that will continue to serve a function for licenses, taxes, fines, just a variety of things with non-detention law enforcement or judicial functions necessarily, but a whole lot of county functions nonetheless, recorder of deeds, county clerk, treasurer, auditor, what have you, will still remain in this building. So the question is it prudent to make an investment of $200,000 or $300,000 to ensure a heightened level of air quality? So that's really the issue from your standpoint. The fact is for the Justice Center, Jeff and I would probably recommend building into that building from the start the very mechanisms that we're discussing you adding to the courthouse, because we'd be foolish not to have in medical, ISO, in SEG units and all kinds of stuff, that very system in place and designed from the beginning. So your point's well taken. It's a bit of a conundrum, whether at this juncture you still invest the money as a precautionary measure, regardless of how effective the vaccine may be. But that's a decision the board would need to deliberate on.
To add to that, there are some components that, as these functions do move out, putting in better filtration or UV lights in the HVAC unit, those are things that would still be beneficial to your building regardless of what's being occupied as far as the different offices in there. Some of the UV lights within the spaces, we're looking at the courtroom and some of the areas in your lobby. As our understanding is, when juries are being pulled in on days or course of session, the lobby gets quite full. So there's different parts and pieces that we could look at within the information supplied previously that could tailor back and bring that cost down and find the right bang for your buck for those items.
I'm not sure how to say this, but on all these improvements that have been suggested, have there been any statistics to show the extra margin of safety that they provide as compared to not doing it?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head. It's something I have to look into and see where we're at. A lot of this is still newer technology, and trying to find some of these statistics could be very difficult because it's always questionable, were there issues in the first place, or did these systems help? Generally speaking, UV lights are being installed in systems and have been for quite some time. And my understanding, not having to go try to find some statistics, is that has helped improve the air quality and the buildings for the occupants within them.
Well, just as an example, it would just be a difference to me whether they improved the situation by 2% or whether they increased the safety margin by 20% on disease or.
We can go look into and get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
It's interesting because if you look at the past 10 months, which is what this thing now has had, or 9 months of crisis, that's not really a long enough period of time to really know what has effectively worked on a consistent basis. The question has been for governments or business owners, do you try something that appears to have sound technology or sound basis behind it in an effort to hopefully downgrade the risk, or you wait? And I understand the dilemma where you say, if this thing helps 1 or 2%, that's not even significant. Why would we spend our community's hard-earned tax dollars to prevent something on a margin that small? Who knows? Maybe in another 2 years, and you look back and you say, it really wasn't 2%, it was 12%. And I don't know what the answer is. But in any event, we'll go ahead and do what research we can and report to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on to the possible Justice Center and are you all in possession of some conceptual sketches of ours, as well as 2 potential locations where the out boundaries have been provided to us by the county GIS mapping and appraisal?
Anybody have those?
I don't.
None of us here have those.
Okay, the sheriff, they were among the 7 or 8 properties that were identified when we met with you several weeks ago. You may be acquainted with them. One is the Joseph Rohr property on Sanders Street and North 2nd. The other is the Wise Mahdi Wise property, or Wise Mahdi property. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. On 10th Place and South 4th Street.
They're gonna make us some copies for that.
All right, great.
Larry, I have those pulled up. This is Alex Goldberg here, by the way. Larry, I have those pulled up. Would it be helpful if I shared my screen?
Sure.
Okay. Let me see about doing that. One sec. Just. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Awesome.
That is the slightly smaller, more up linear side. That's the Wise Mahdi or Mahdi Wise LLC site. And then this is the Joseph Rohr site. There's a big gray box, Alex.
I don't know what that means.
There we go.
Oh, sorry, that's actually, your guys' video, so I'll try and keep that off to the corner.
Okay. All right.
I also have the test fits if you want to speak to those at some point.
I will.
Okay.
Of the two properties, this one, the Joseph Rohr site, gives us slightly more room and clearance. They're both roughly the same size, about 3.8 to 3.9, 3.6 to 3.8 acres. And, but this is the one that offers us the best fit if you're going to consider the type of facility we're about to discuss, that being one that will be designed for future expansion. Over the years to come.
I have your original sketches as well, if you want to talk more detail about that.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Anyhow, I just wanted to bring the board up to date. These were the two that were identified as perhaps the most liked or preferred locations. And of those, you'll see in a few minutes that the Rohr site really works out well. It's near the hospital. It's about a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile from the courthouse. It's about a block from Highway 75. It's adjacent to City Hall. I mean, it's just got a bunch of pluses. What we don't know, and we're making an assumption that would need to be investigated, that with the construction next to it or with the facilities next to it, it'll have plenty of utilities. And so not like we're out in the middle of nowhere. And anyhow, Alec, why don't you go ahead and show us with the footprint superimposed on these sites.
Sure. Do you care which one to start with?
No.
Okay.
Start with the Maddie site.
Okay, yeah. So here's the smaller, thinner site, and here's the proposed footprint on that site.
At the same scale.
Yep, at the same scale. So with the current scheme, the existing footprint will fit, or the proposed immediate footprint will fit. That's what's in this bold line here. What's in this dashed line is our proposed future expansion. And with that future expansion, it starts to limit what we can do on the site. You'll notice that there's limited availability in front for immediate parking, and how you access the backside gets a little awkward because of the limitations of this site. But it still technically fits, and if this one is the one that everyone wants to move forward with, then it might just take some finessing and adjustments on our part to make it work, but.
Hey, Alex, can you rotate that footprint on that site?
I can, after this meeting.
Okay, all right.
But I can tell you that, that if you rotate it 90 degrees, it will not fit as it currently is.
Okay, well then that answers that question. Okay.
Like I said, you know, if this is the one that the county wants to move forward with, it'll just require some moving around of all pieces to make it work.
Okay, now go to the Joseph Rohr site.
So this one, fits a lot better. This is the exact same, size footprint as the other one. And this is all based off those sketches that should have been sent to you. We can look at those later. This one, I've gone ahead and flushed out parking layouts as well as drive aisles. And so you can see it just fits a lot better and allows for a lot more mobility around the building while also accommodating future expansion.
Okay. All right, so for what it is worth at this stage, our recommendation would be that the board might consider moving forward and with the Rohr site through some kind of simple option and to purchase if and when the project were to move ahead. We can talk about that in some simple ways to get that going. All right. What we have included in this footprint is everything that has been described to me as being part of a small detention center, LEC and Justice Center, including about 70 to 80 beds, in which you had general population housing of 78. Our criminologists need assessment identified 75. So what we might do is shell in a pod or two at the direction of the county board. The dotted line on the other side gives you lots of room for expansion. We have got the sheriff's offices, medical booking and intake, laundry. We've got 2 courts, a large courtroom that would replace the courtroom in your current county courthouse, as well as a smaller hearing room. You've got some pretrial hold, a jury, a suite, and all that, attorney conferences. Then behind that, you would have chambers, court services, just all of that. The only thing we didn't have in there called out was the prosecutor's offices, but we'll go ahead and rectify that in the next edition. You've got a vehicle sally board, you've got vehicle forensics, and so forth, and all that's on the ground floor. You would have the possibility of expanding this facility to 160 to 180 beds in the years to come, if such a thing were ever to prove necessary. In the lower level, or the basement, you have an evidence suite for bulk evidence as well as vaults. You've got 911 communications with restrooms and offices. You've got a small kitchenette. You've got a pneumo suite / training facility and plenty of storage. And those things are all delineated on my sketches to you dated the 18th of November. Now, in addition, I showed at the time a generic site plan that just showed some parking. And one of the reasons why the parking need might be considered to be larger than would ordinarily be the case is because of jury selection. Because what you have is not only a duplication of staff and shift change, but you would have jury selection of 50 to 70 people called in as respective jurors under voir dire, and then they would be narrowed down to the 12 plus alternates. So the staffing ends up being fairly extensive, and but it is what it is, and it's another reason why the Joseph Rohr site seemed to make more sense to us. So there you have the concept, all the pieces are there with the exception of the prosecutor, which I said is sort of in there, but I didn't identify, and my mistake, and I'll get that rectified. But in any event, you can see all the small housing pods that would give your sheriff's department the capacity to classify on a number of bases, and that equals 78 beds. And remember, when you talk about classification, you're talking about classification slippage. We never count more than 80 or 85% of any given classification because it doesn't make sense to assume that every day of the week, each one of these beds will be full. But 85% classification slippage means a 78 bed general population equates to about 66 or 67 beds on an average. If we think that's still a little heavy, then we can take one of the 8 or 12 bed pods and shell that in for the future. Or you build it now and you lease the beds out to generate income to replenish the reserve account if that's how you deem the best way to fund the project moving forward with the support of your community. But you can see that the control points have direct visual control over housing, over visitation. You've got central control. You've got it all works and is pretty compact. Let me stop right here and for a few minutes while you all ask questions. Randy, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you want to speak a few minutes about this type of jail, about the need for as much classification, smaller pods as we can do, and some of these needs to reinforce this concept.
Sure. I think what the plus on this is, while 78 beds, the mindset might be 78 beds, we'll never fill 78 beds. But part of classification is, with the county jails, is convicted versus non-convicted, felony versus misdemeanors, as well as when we have multiple co-defendants in cases where we have to house or keep them separated from each other. Currently, with our situation, we have to house in other county jails. In order to accomplish that, by having these smaller pod systems, you would be able to do that classification and separation for co-defendants and for your convicted versus non-convicted, and that would get you that ability to put them into separate control pods and then manage your housing. So are you going to occupy all 78 beds? Probably not, and I think that's what Larry's getting at, is the fact that the occupancy is percentage-wise
Randy,
much lower.
Excuse me for 1 minute, I'm gonna duck out for just a couple.
Okay, sir. And so I think that's the important part to remember, and to be able to put those into those separate pods, you know, and you got female population as well. So when you're talking female population, you may have to have some separation there, and that's what the smaller pods, to me, in talking with Larry, instead of building these huge, back in the day, like Lyon County Jail, for example, they have pods that are 30, 40 people in a pod. And I don't think that's the direction they're going anymore with jails, because you get that number of inmates in one area. Then if you have an incident, you got to respond to it and you got to manage it. And so I think to make it safer and to make it liability wise easier to, and you still, it doesn't increase the staff. I think that's the important part, is with direct control with the pod system, you're able to do it from a control room in which you have direct vision. I can see into this pod, I can see into that pod, you know, you have direct vision and you have cameras. And so they would have separate little housing cells. Everything else would be out in a general population area, which cuts down on your costs as far as building, you know, each one building its own shower, its own, you know, benches and all these things. It's in a general area and you can manage it much easier. So I think that's what in analyzing the data that we had available, you know, as to occupancy currently. And then what they did is Joe with the jail side, he looked at projecting out something that when the jail was built back in the early 80s, they didn't project out those numbers. And that's why where we're at today. Right now, we're at about 80 to 90% occupancy. And that's what's making it problematic and stuff. So I think we all know that. It's just a matter of, you know, and I think something Larry did not hit on that's very, very important is when you look at the additional beds for the intake, the medical, the psychological segregation for disciplinary reasons, those beds that are separated off and on the drawings, if anything else, those are the beds that we got to pay attention to. That's, I think, going to be even greater in the future, just because, you know, like the other day, we had a guy up at the hospital psychologically, and had to sit on him for almost 2 days. Versus if we had the separate areas outside general population, because we cannot house them in with normal population, we would be able to accomplish that much easier labor-wise. So,
You know, it's interesting, I'm back.
Okay, Larry.
What's interesting is that second pod, the future pod represented by that dotted line on the left, that may not end up being more jail at all. It may end up being a forensic unit that will represent, under medical supervision, a mental health approach to detention housing that we're seeing more and more jurisdictions leaning toward, because mental health is such a huge part of recidivism. And anyhow, just as an aside, that may end up being a very valuable piece of future planning.
And I think that is a key component, because like originally, you know, we had talked to the hospital about building a safe room up there, and the county had allotted, I believe it was like $35,000 to go towards building a safe room, and it hasn't ever happened, and for whatever reasons. And then by the time they got around to doing it, the cost to renovate a room or area was upwards and over $90,000 now. So I think that's the important part to think about for the future too, is why we have the hospital to convert to do a conversion area and to turn that into mental health wing or ward might not be doable as far as renovation goes. So, you know, obviously we don't know where the future of Osawatomie and the state goes, but at this point, it's not going in a positive direction, unfortunately. You know, we had without going into specifics, we had an attempted suicide in the jail the other day. These are all liability things that are obviously prevalent today, that'll only be more prevalent, I think, down the road. And to have the safety cells or areas, I think is imperative, regardless of whatever we do on the number of beds. And Larry,
I'm here.
Okay, and one other question, a future commissioner-elect had on the pods themselves, where it says like 16 and 12, that's a two-tier type jail, first and second floor or one floor?
Correct. That's a ground floor and then a mezzanine floor immediately above it. And the reason why is to bring the cell face as close to housing control as possible with as many cells as possible. And that's how it's done.
And then
these are proposed, I'm sorry.
And then on the cells themselves are in the pods, the cells themselves wouldn't have all the amenities. Would there be one common shower on the first floor of that pod to inmates would shower, or would each cell have its own shower and all that?
We do rear chase steel modular cells.
Okay.
And every cell has a shower.
So it would already be precast.
Yeah, but it would be pre-manufactured, but I want to explain. We have not done a gang shower or a day room shower in probably 15 years. The idea of passing illness or disease, lice, just an enormous range. These people are their hygiene is often substandard and so forth. But more than that, what it means is in terms of operations, your first tier of what we call sequential sanctioning, or isolating a prisoner who's acting out, is to isolate him or her in their own day room cell. And the ability of food passes, cuff ports, and to shower means that every cell can become at least partially an isolation or segregation cell. It also means that I can make the day room smaller because I don't need to allow for cells in the day room. And so in terms of added cost, there is none. It comes out to be a wash or maybe even a little better. That space between the back of the cells and the outside of the building is a mechanical chase. And that chase represents some of the best custody because that's where your maintenance occurs, and we're even modularizing the mechanical, electrical, plumbing on the back of the cells because of the tremendous demand for mechanical, sheet metal, HVAC, plumbing, masons, and electrical contractors. And in fact, we're going to be doing our first mod backs on Lynn County, Kansas, sometime in the next few months, and with construction starting there. So those are some of the aspects of this. that I wanted to make you, aware of.
Anything else, Randy?
Now, the only other thing was, is there any other areas or anything that, as a committee, we looked at various sites in Burlington and accessibility and as well as to tie in with existing services like the hospital and municipal courts and utilities. So if there's any other sites we didn't have them identified, we can identify them. I mean, we can look at other alternatives.
I don't know if the site, like I said, I haven't seen any of this. It hasn't been, as committees had it, but I know there's a lot of talk about around the airport one time. What happened to that? Is there a reasoning for it to be eliminated?
No, the only reasoning, and we were just talking about that this morning on the airport, and it's out in a rural area. There's things it doesn't have that would have to go under consideration, like sewer, potentially water, large enough water supply. The sewer was the big thing. I mean, you'd have to look at a lagoon system, that sort of thing. Other than that too, accessibility of personnel, you know, like the county attorney's office being placed out there and the courthouse being here, there would still be that commute time or that commute issue for his staff, but not necessarily jail and sheriff's office, but also it has some pluses. If that's something that the commission wants us to take a look at, we can revisit that.
I don't know if that's a necessity. I just know one time it was a kind of one of the priority spots since the county owned the land and some of that stuff. I'm just curious why it got taken off the table.
Well, in fact, this morning I had Angie contact GIS over there to pull up the GIS mapping around the airport, because I'm not sure what all the county owns out there currently. And so Kara was going to pull that up for us this morning, and I'll forward that back to Larry and Goldberg to take a look at to see, because it does have some pluses. It does.
Well, but let me address this.
Okay.
One of the things that is interesting is no matter how long or how far down the road jail planning gets, the idea of having it adjacent to elementary schools, to daycare centers, to cemeteries, to churches, to just a whole range of things just isn't considered wise, at least politically. We have never had or seen property values go down. We work with the National Realtors Association, but it doesn't matter. The public perception is just negative. As a consequence, the plus about putting a jail at an airport, one of them clearly is that if it is the intent to house federal prisoners or prisoners from other and larger locations such as Sedgwick County or Johnson County or Wyandotte County or whatever, the U.S. Marshals and ICE, who we work with all the time, they can fly planes into your airport and literally unload prisoners right there. The minus is that if the airport would prefer to have development as an industrial or commercial / industrial area, then a jail would be deemed as a large negative for businesses contemplating locating themselves in that industrial park. I think that was some of why we shied away from the airport, aside from the utility issues. And, but we'd be glad to revisit it. But from my standpoint, if the board said, look, maybe we'll spend 40,000 or 100 or whatever the amount is to acquire a site, this thing's gotta last for 50 or 60 years. And so you wanna make sure that, that you're putting it in the right place. The idea of a straight shot to your courthouse of no more than 3/4 of a mile, the idea of being in close proximity to a hospital, these are huge pluses. And lastly, a lot of the housing of prisoners will not take place in the air, but through vehicles, and the ability to hop onto Highway 75, literally a block or two away, is a plus too. So those are some of the things that go into our analysis when we're at this stage. Go ahead, Randy.
No, I was just, you're right. There's a lot of considerations. The airport was one of those. And then I know in the past, industrial growth and development has been, I think, contemplated, or at least initial thoughts on it. I think the thing that makes it so much more of a plus is in Burlington, there's services available, your pharmacies, because of your jail medical and pharmaceutical issues. I think there's so many more pluses to having it in Burlington, or this proximity outweighs what few pluses there are for out at the airport. So that's why we didn't go ahead and pursue it.
Statutorily, does the jail or the sheriff's office have to be within the county seat? Normally, the answer to that is yes.
Normally it is, I think, as practice, but not statutorily required.
Really?
Okay, well, that answers my question. I'm just curious because
Yeah.
that was one of the hot spots when it first started, and I hadn't heard anything different. So I'm just curious why it was X, and I can accept those explanations. So, thank you.
Okay, now incidentally, a dumb and simple way to fix the acquisition of a site is the owners do a property appraisal. The county does an independent property appraisal, and you set at either the average of the two appraisals, or maybe no more than 5 or 10% above the average of the two appraisals. And it's been just a dumb and simple way to set a purchase price for a parcel of land to be used by a county for a project of this nature. What we don't want to do, if possible, is get far down the road without a site having been identified, because that will create an issue. I think of the over 100 jail bond issues we've done, I think 2 of them we haven't had a site pinned down, and it's been a hard way to go to a community.
We did find a statute, Larry, 19-1901, that talks about a jail being at the county seat, that the Board of County Commissioners shall establish a jail, and it shall be in the county seat. So we all learned something there. Now,
it is there.
It is there, yes. Now, whether it's still there or not, I'm gonna research it and see whether, I don't think it's been refilled.
What the OTC just sent out to us.
Did they just send that out?
Just sent it out.
So do we think it's still an active
We did.
statute? It hasn't been rescinded
Right.
See, I've done too many jails in Kansas, and it's always been necessary, even if the county then had to request the city to annex the property.
Right.
On some basis. But, so having it in Burlington is probably a necessity. Okay. What I've shown as a diagram is about 35,000 square feet, including the basement. So it's sort of right in there in terms of a simple compact shape and so forth. I don't have a price to discuss yet, but I will in time for the next meeting. Programmatically, commissioners, this includes the shopping list of the functions that we were asked to explore putting in the facility. Does this still seem to make sense to you all to have all of the judicial and law enforcement functions under one roof with the jail so that prisoners literally are arrested, arraigned, and so forth, all under the same roof without being transported? Does that still make sense to all of you?
This is Bob. That was my thought from the very beginning of this, even 2 or 3 or 4 years ago was my thought. Maybe that's something we ought to be looking at in this county. So I'm still on board with that.
All right. What this means is you would have a large courtroom that could be your district court as well as, for any criminal proceedings. It would seat somewhere around 100 to 120. And your hearing room would seat 30 or 40 or something like that. I mean, it just makes sense to me, Bob. And all right, then will anybody else want to join Bob in terms of questions or concerns about program?
I like the idea for officer safety and everything, as far as having the courtroom and everything at one spot.
Yes, sir.
I think Wade's got something to say.
Larry, how are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm going to take a few steps back because what we have here is what I'll call the Ferrari. But if I recall, and maybe you can correct me, we also wanted to figure out what it would take to retrofit the current jail. And then there would be a jail and a sheriff's department. And then at the top of the mountain was the judicial center. And I'm trying to think of it from a taxpayer perspective, and why is the judicial center the best bang for the buck versus what it would cost to do these other things? And maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but when you're spending that kind of money, I guess as a taxpayer, I want to know why this is the best option. Does that make sense?
And I understand, sure, and we can certainly look at that. The problem is, if you remember, Wade, we looked at a direction of renovating and expanding the courthouse. You can't really retrofit the existing jail very well because you can't get a mezzanine. It could not happen within the confines of the existing walls and have you meet any sort of jail or building code standards. So then we talked about expanding it outside the courthouse. In other words, could we bump it out somewhere so we could get some additional space to try and provide indoor-outdoor activities program and so forth. And our understanding was that especially with the school there on the corner of the property, nobody wanted to contemplate revamping the courthouse for that reason. And so I'd be glad to go back and study that and add it so we can do a direct compare for this, not only of elected officials, but the community. And, but that's at least, I remember the conversation leading.
If I can also, it's Alex again. We've worked on quite a few renovation projects as well. And, you know, on paper, it's always tempting to try and reuse what's already built because it's you know, a standing building. But more times than not, once we begin our investigation into older buildings, we really come up with quite a laundry list of things that need to be corrected or removed or, you know, rehabilitated in some way. And it either ends up, you know, being one-for-one cost with a new facility or slightly more expensive. And then on top of that, just the logistics of rehabilitating a building where you're talking about temporarily relocating functions to somewhere else, whether it's, you know, housing inmates in other counties while you try and rehabilitate that space, or moving county or court functions to some other space in the county or outside the county. You know, there's just a lot of additional cost and logistics that come along with trying to reuse old buildings. Now, sometimes that ends up being the perfect fit for a county, and sometimes we, you know, end up building a new facility. That's something that we'll take a look at, but just wanted to put that out there.
And Larry and Alex, the reason why I asked the question is because I think internally, there's a number of us who understand that that is what it takes, but communicating those same points to the public to demonstrate why you can't, why it's not a good idea to use what we have to fit it into what the county needs. That's the message that needs to be sent out to the general public, in my opinion, because I don't know if that's understood across the county, and there needs to be.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's drop back a step and do that. Absolutely.
So that's the only reason why I bring that up, and I think it's public awareness, because to spend the kind of money that this project will likely, the price tag on it, you're gonna have to have buy-in from the public, and they need to know why it's important, why these things need to occur, why, in addition to the jail and the sheriff's department, the other makes sense as well. So that's the only reason I bring it up.
Okay, let's do it. Absolutely. We will look at renovating it within the existing footprint and see where we would end up, as well as looking at what it would take to create the opportunity at the courthouse for an equivalent number of functions and phases. All right.
Okay. Still with it, Larry?
Here, he has them.
Yes.
For the land.
Anybody have any questions, Larry, so far?
The jail drawing.
Right, we got the existing jail drawings. yeah.
Okay, I guess right now there's no questions.
Okay. I would like to throw out a couple of ideas, and then I want to introduce Megan Reese as the project manager for us, who will be working between myself, Alex, and Coffee County officials. Megan, say hi.
Good morning, everyone.
Megan is a K-State graduate Isn't that right? You went to K-State?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And, in any event, has been with us and is working on, renovations with Alex on Leavenworth and, as well as other stuff, Lynn County. She's the project manager on, and, so, I just wanted to introduce her to you all. I have permission to contact the sheriff-elect and just bring him up to speed. If nobody has an objection to that, so that he feels like he's at least in the loop pursuant to, hitting the ground running after the 11th of January. And I also wanted to bring up the notion, and this is entirely my suggestion, not anybody else's. We've had an excellent collaborative relationship or dialogue with your outgoing retiring sheriff, and I wondered if the county would consider asking Randy to stay on as kind of a project liaison for 90 or 120 days or something to help the sheriff-elect with project considerations. I have no idea what that might entail, but my understanding is the sheriff's undersheriff is in the Kansas State Legislature, and they're convening for their new term shortly, and he's gonna have to hit the ground running, and he's gonna have a very, very full plate. So it occurred to us that this might not be a bad opportunity for Randy to stay involved, at least for the next a few weeks, or at least until the study is done and the community has had a chance to chew on this.
Good morning, sir. My name's Tom Johnson. I'm sheriff-elect. Nice to meet you.
You just, I couldn't hear anything you said, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Tom Johnson, and I'm the sheriff-elect here in Coffee County.
Hi, Sheriff-elect Larry Goldberg.
Nice to meet you, sir. I've been kept up to date
Nice
by
to
Sheriff
meet you.
Rogers. I've got all the plans, whatever you sent him, I have, and we have spoken about this. So I just want you to know, I've been attending the commission meetings, and I have been kept up to speed with Randy. So nice to meet you, sir. Just wanted you to let him know I was here.
Nice to meet you. Forward to working with you and your administration in the weeks and months to come.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that's it for this. If you all want to ponder some of these issues, and I'm available, and whether through Randy or Sheriff-elect Johnson or however, and we'll probably want to get back on the agenda in a couple of weeks and update you on this new stuff we're going to be developing for the study.
Okay, Larry, this is Bob. We're short a couple commissioners today. Hopefully they'll be back with us for very long. And I think it's stuff that we will all need to go over as a commission ourselves. So at this stage of the game, we'll just take what you've given us and we'll pass it on and discuss it with the rest of them also.
Good. All right. That's all I can ask. Bob and the county board members, thank you. Sheriff, thank you. And we'll be back in touch.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay. So with that, we will probably discuss this down the road with the rest of the commission. And so right now, it's food for thought for us. I think we're the ones that, I say Amber, I think we're the ones that probably have not been involved in it near as much, so it's good to have an update for us. Yes, Amber?
And that was my question, is who is still on the committee for this? I know that we kind of started with some people, and some people dropped off, and some people are on it. So maybe it would be wouldn't be a bad idea to reform the committee too.
Well, we'll work on that. I don't know, when it originally first started, I was one on it, and then somehow I'm not on it, so, that's something we'll have to discuss. And we will, but we need a full board to discuss that stuff. So, okay. So, unless somebody has something else on that, Wade, we have Wayne here, and, he's talking about a contractor, hiring a contractor, and we haven't discussed price or anything like that. And I was wondering if we could go into executive session with Wade, with you and Wayne, to discuss that, and what we might want to offer. We're kind of in a situation where we'll need to be doing something pretty quick.
It's a current employee, Wade, so a current employee that's retiring, and he's licensed as a wastewater class 1 operator, and so we're gonna need to continue that operation.
And if you're talking about somebody in the future, you're talking about someone who's not personnel. Yeah.
Right, it'd be a contract with a person, and,
so
If this is a Capers employee, you can't be doing this because they'll void their retirement if you make any arrangements for them to come back to work, even as a contractor.
yeah, well, I mean, there's several different
that's what we're after.
Layers to this, and I mean, I think the better option is to put this particular issue on hold for a week, and I can talk to Wayne, figure out more about what exactly is going on behind the scenes. I know a little bit, but not enough to be able to steer you in the right direction right now.
Sounds perfect.
And then that way you have hopefully have a full board.
Yep.
I know I talked to Don last night, and he was gonna be listening at least. I listened this morning before I got here. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, that's why we brought you in. He was great. Okay. Did you have anything for roundtable, Wade?
No, not for today.
Okay, we've already done roundtable, unless someone has something else for this. We'll adjourn this meeting at,
Recess, won't you? If you have interviews, you'll recess.
no, and the interviews have been postponed until later,
Till the 28th, Denise, at 1 and
later,
2:30.
so. Other than that, unless I have anyone else, we will adjourn at 11:58.
I really like your, speaker, that's your system on highway.